Julia Ann Mercer is a witness to the JFK assassination. Before the assassination, she was driving by about an hour and a half before, and she witnessed a man apparently bring a rifle or a rifle case up the side of the hill towards the overpass. On November 22nd, 1963, I was driving a rented white Valiant automobile west on Elm Street and was proceeding to the overpass in a westerly direction, and at a point about 45 or 50 feet east of the overhead signs of the right entrance road to the overpass, there was a truck parked on the right-hand side of the road. Don't worry about that, I'll show you where it was. The truck looked like it had one or two wheels up on the curb. The hood on the truck was open. On the driver's side of the truck, there were printed letters in black oval shaped which said air conditioning. This was a pickup truck, and along the back side of the truck were what appeared to be toolboxes. The truck was a green Ford with a Texas license. I remember seeing the word Ford on the back of the truck. A man was sitting under the wheel of the car and slouched over the wheel. This man had on a green jacket, was a white male in about his 40s, and was heavy set. I did not see him too clearly. Another man was at the back of the truck and reached over the tailgate and took out from the truck what appeared to be a gun case. This case was about 8 inches wide at its widest spot and tapered down to a width of about 4 or 5 inches. It was brown in color. It had a handle, and it was about 3.5 to 4 feet long. The man who took this out of the truck then proceeded to walk up away from the truck, and as he did, the small end of the case caught in the grass or sidewalk, and he reached down to free it. He then proceeded to walk across the grass and up the grassy hill, which forms part of the overpass. This is the last I saw of this man. I had been delayed because the truck which I described above was blocking my passage, and I had to await until the lane to my left cleared so I could go by the truck. During the time that I was at this point and observed the above incident, there were 3 policemen standing talking near a motorcycle on the bridge just west of me. All right, I'm going to stop it there. I'm going to ignore, there's a controversy that comes along Garrison time where Julianne Mercer says she identified to the FBI the man behind the driver's wheel of the truck as Jack Ruby. I'm going to ignore all that stuff and just deal with the original evidence here. And we can see from the presidential detail assignment sheet that on the overpass, the next overpass where Julianne Mercer said she saw 3 officers. Well, there was an officer assigned there, and that's Officer Joe Murphy, call number 271, and he's assigned on a 3-wheel motorcycle. So that's the officer in the motorcycle. And from the Dallas Police radio transcript from the radio recording, we can see that Officer Murphy called in this incident at 11:07 when he asked for a tow truck to be dispatched. And then 9 minutes later, at 11:16, he calls off the tow truck and he says, "We got a truck to push him out of there." And Officer Murphy talked to the FBI on December 9th, and this is from their report of that interview. Joe Murphy, Patrolman, Traffic Division, Police Department, Dallas, Texas, advised that on November 22nd, 1963, he was stationed on the triple underpass on Elm Street to assist in handling traffic. They don't make it clear here, but it's the second underpass. It's not the one closest to where Kennedy was shot. At approximately 10:30 to 10:40 a.m., we now know it's a little after 11, a pickup truck stalled on Elm Street between Houston Street and the underpass. This is technically not true. If you're talking about the underpass that we all know and love, that this implies it would be on the east side of that. But this is west of the triple underpass and east of the underpass that Murphy was on. He was unable to recall the name of the company to whom this truck belonged, but stated it is the property of the company working on the First National Bank building at Elm and Eckard in Dallas. So Joe Murphy told the FBI whose truck this was, or at least who they were working for. They were probably a subcontractor working on this bank building project. So the FBI should know where to go looking for this truck, but when they investigated it, we have no indication in the paperwork at all that they inquired at the bank building construction project. They looked everywhere else, but not where they knew it had come from. There were 3 construction men in this truck, and he took one to the bank building to obtain another truck in order to assist in moving the stalled one. So this is why there's 9 minutes between his 2 calls. During that time, without telling the dispatcher apparently, he took one of the men to go get another truck. Shortly prior to the arrival of the motorcade, the man he had taken to the bank building returned with a second truck, and all 3 of the men left with the 2 trucks, one pushing the other. So what this means is that Joe Murphy returned to his assignment before the second truck got there. So when Julianne Mercer sees 2 men with a truck and 3 policemen on the overpass, one with a motorcycle, this must be after Murphy had already taken the construction worker to the bank building project site, and he took him on his 3-wheel motorcycle. That's not stated explicitly here, but that's the vehicle he has. So when Mercer comes by, Murphy has already returned to the next overpass, and he's talking with the other 3 policemen, or the other 2 policemen there. And Murphy goes on to say that none of these men could have had anything to do with the assassination, but he has no way of knowing that. Or at least the FBI says he went on to say that. With the FBI, you never know what the witness really said. Now, the Warren Commission did call Officer Murphy to testify, or at least Mr. Ball and his pals. It wasn't the full commission, but they did not ask him about this incident. They did not mention Julia Ann Mercer. They didn't mention anything about a stopped truck. They didn't ask him anything at all about any of this. He does tell them that he had 2 other officers on the overpass with him, and he said he can't remember their names. So I annotated this. This is an exhibit, Murphy Exhibit A, and I added some things on there, obviously with the color, where I put Murphy where he said he was standing over Elm Street on the second overpass there, and I put about where the truck is according to Mercer's description and what Murphy said on the radio, and where Mercer was behind the truck, so that you can see the relative positions here. And the railroad underpass, which is under Mercer, the railroad overpass, that's the one that's in front of where Kennedy was shot. So the truck and Mercer were west of the overpass. Now in this photograph I've marked out some things to help orient you to what this story is talking about. The Stemmons overpass on the bottom portion there, it's where Murphy and the other 2 officers were stationed. In green above that I have a circled T, which is about where the truck was stopped. The triple overpass is marked, that's where right in front of where Kennedy was shot. And in the background there happened to be 2 bank building projects going on at this time. The Republic National Bank on the left and the First National Bank on the right. Now Murphy specified the First National Bank, so I think that's where he took the guy on the truck. So he probably went down Main Street and turned left somewhere and left him there, and then came back on Elm Street. And the other bank building project is Wallace and Beard is associated with that, and Brennan and Milliken, 2 witnesses to the assassination, worked for Wallace and Beard. But I don't know whether Wallace and Beard might have been working on both projects. The information is incomplete. I just happen to know that it is said that Wallace and Beard worked at the other one there. But I wouldn't be surprised if Wallace and Beard worked on both of them, in which case you would have this interesting situation where Milliken and Brennan are associated through employment with this truck that somebody took a gun out of and brought up to the overpass. Now this is a graphic I slapped together. On the bottom there, the black and white photo is a photo from 1963. And above, I went on Google Maps, and I don't know if it's still like this, but you used to be able to walk around on the streets and get views from different places. And I went to where Officer Murphy said he was standing. And I put the T in the star, where the truck, approximately where that was. The picture, the color picture here is, of course, from many years after the assassination. But the signs themselves may be different, but the sign support structure is the same, and presumably the signs are in about the same place. In this picture, there's been a lot of tree growth, so the billboard there, I think it's Seagram's, whatever it is, the billboard is obscured. But if you look at all of this and think about it from the perspective of where Joe Murphy said he was, if somebody had taken a gun out of that truck and had walked toward the hill on the overpass on the north side of the street, then he would very soon be hidden by these signs for the exit there, and then by the billboard itself. You see in the bottom picture where I have the red star and I drew a red line, theoretically where this person could have walked, he could have walked behind the billboard, and almost all of his walk would have been hidden from somebody standing in the position that Joe Murphy said he was. And Mercer did say that 3 policemen were together on the bridge talking near a motorcycle. So even though Murphy draws a diagram with his 2 fellow officers further out, I think over Commerce Street, at the time that Mercer was there, before the motorcade had come by, apparently they were all together talking with each other. And if they were in Murphy's stated position, they would be about where I have this P on the bridge here. So their view of anybody walking from that truck up the hill to the overpass would be blocked by the signage. And perhaps that's not a coincidence. And shots were fired from the overpass, as I have covered in other videos. So I think this was the plan. I think it sounds goofy. I think on the McAdams site somebody says maybe it was McAdams himself who said it was a goofy thing to do. But I think the reason they would do this is because the first shot has to be into JFK's throat and has to be fired at a particular time. It has to hit for this plan to work. I don't want to get into why that is here, but if I was that shooter, even if I was a great shot, I would want to practice with the gun I'm going to be using, adjusted as it is, whether it had a scope or sights, whatever he was using. He would want to be very recently have practiced on it. And I think probably the shooter who used this gun from the overpass practiced with it that very morning, and that's why they're bringing it at 11 o'clock in the morning, because he had been practicing earlier. And they don't want to just stash it there overnight when he can't practice in the morning because of the importance of the shot. So I think that's what happened. I think this was part of the plan. It was a grand conspiracy, and I think there's no doubt in my mind that Julianne Mercer saw what was the throat shot gun carried up the grassy up the grassy hill there to the overpass that was used to shoot JFK in the throat.